Hey guys, this is Anna Shadowwick, and today's video is for April 1st. April 1st is, of course, April Fool's Day. So I thought this would be a great time to actually start a set of candles that I've been wanting to make and actually complete since the beginning of Shadowwick Creations and probably even beyond that. I've always wanted to create a full major arcana tarot set with candles, connecting to each of the tarot cards, the upright meaning of the card, because of course, if you draw a card and it's reversed, some people will work with that and it will have kind of a different meaning than the upright pull of a card. For the first Dark Arts Festival Shadowwick was a part of, I got half of the major arcana done. But it's really bugged me. I've never finished. I kept meaning to go back and do the other half. And then when I started working on the other half, I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel right. It needs to be all one fell swoop. I need to do all of them. So I'm kind of going back. And it's been a really great process, actually, because I think many people probably know this as well. It's great to go back past into your past and kind of read journal entries and diaries and see sketches and things you've done and be like, oh, okay, well that was interesting and that was cool, but now I want to try it like this, or oh, I see where I was going with this, but let's take it a step further. And so you can kind of tweak even the best laid plans that you had from the past. You can kind of look at and see the uniqueness in that and the wonder in it, but you can kind of look at it with a different perspective and switch it up and put it in a different way or see it from a different viewpoint. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Originally, I had my notes from when I started the tarot set. I had them all blueprinted out, and then I was going through them. I'm like, oh, I feel so different now about this card, and I feel so different about that card. And I'm working with a traditional view of the cards. I'm not like putting my own spin on any of them, really. But the sigil will still have the same meaning. But I my sigil making in and of itself has kind of changed in certain ways. Different symbols mean different things to me now, and so I kind of wanted to redo things. So this is the blueprint so far for the Fool. I thought today being April Fool's Day would be a good day to not only share the sigil, but also explain it a little bit. So the Fool as a tarot card, sorry, my hands are shaking suddenly. The Fool as a tarot card is signified with a 0 number. If you look at the major arcana, they're all kind of numbered out. But the Fool is 0, and that is to represent the potential. And that really, for me at least, that's always what that card has meant and will mean for me on a personal level, but even on a traditional level, that's kind of its significance. The card can be put at the beginning of the major arcana or the end of the major arcana. It's kind of that rebirth card in a way as well, because it's the beginning of that journey. So if you've gone through the major arcana, the next thing to do is to start over again, because there's never an ending. It is always kind of you've gone through this story, you've gone through this process, and now you're out the other end, and it's time to take a new path. And that's the energy of the Fool, is that new beginning. It's that growth. It's sometimes a bit of recklessness. It's a little bit of it can be kind of take me where the wind wishes, which can be wonderful because you have freedom, but it can also be non-direct. You don't feel like you have a direction, which can be very frustrating as well. Each card has a positive and a negative, if not many positives and negatives. But yes, so for the Fool, it's that individual that's starting out on a journey and kind of throws caution to the wind and just take me where I'm supposed to be. And you can kind of see the foreshadowing of possibly some hard times ahead and some dangers that maybe the Fool isn't noticing while they're starting off on their journey. But there's that endless possibility, which is underlying there. There's the creativity, the untapped potential. Um, the although there's kind of this blind abandonment, there's still a bit of clarity and thought within that step. It's that point, it's that part of the journey where you aren't entirely sure how you're going to get from point A into point B, but you know that first step is what matters, and the Fool takes that step. So when I was working with the Sigil, I wanted to incorporate of the I wanted to incorporate some of the traditional symbols of the Fool. So you have the sun in the tarot card. It's often working with the Rider-Waite deck. It's kind of up in the corner, and it's supposed to represent the possibilities and the opportunities. So I wanted to have the sun as a part of it, but I didn't want it up. I wanted it to be a bit more ambiguous. So here's the sun, and it could be rising, it could be setting. It's still a source of potential. It's a source of light and illumination and guidance, but you don't really know which way it's going. And that kind of speaks to kind of that blind factor that the Fool kind of embodies. You're not entirely sure you know where you're going, but man, are you going there. I also have the arrow kind of pointing up, and that is also part of the sun. That is to show kind of that onward and upward attitude, which for me is a major part of the Fool's energy. Very optimistic, very much opening to the possibilities and searching for those untapped opportunities. The air element, I think, is really present in the Fool's card, so I wanted the tip of the arrow to represent that air element as kind of reigning over the energy within the Sigil. Then as we move down, we have the positive and the negative, light and dark, yin and yang, however you see, it's the balance. Definitely I think this is probably one of the cards in the major arcana that has that balance. It could go either way. It's unpredictable. You don't necessarily know where you're walking to or the hazards that lay on the path, but you also don't know all, the great things that lie on the path. You don't know what treasures you may stumble upon. So it could go either way, and there is a balance, and there is the positive, and there is the negative. So I wanted that to be represented. In the Rider-Waite deck, and a lot of imagery, the Fool is holding a white rose. This is supposed to signify, if memory serves, and please forgive me if I get this wrong, I believe that's supposed to represent innocence and purity and kind of like that childlike aspect that the Fool holds. So I wanted to include that, but I turned it into the lotus because I wanted it to be more of a meditation piece kind of energy. I wanted that innocence and purity, but I wanted it to be a bit more spiritually grounded. Not to say that a white rose isn't, but I wanted it to be a bit more pulling to that center, in a way. So you still have that reckless abandon, but that path that you're taking will lead you to something that is sensational or worthwhile. And then, of course, the lotus opens up to the Unalame symbol, which is a Buddhist symbol. to signify kind of the path of enlightenment. You go through all these kinds of twists and turns, and it ends up kind of being wonky. But as your life ebbs through to its final kind of chapter, I always add the infinity symbol, because the idea is then you go right back into that journey again, which again I think speaks to the energy of the Fool, because it's that new beginning and that new potential, but always a rebirth or a beginning comes from something else ending. Then here we have kind of two swirlies. That's supposed to signify kind of the obstacles, or the when I did that, I thought of like waves cresting as they kind of crash. You get these wonderful ideas of these rolls of waves kind of going over you, and again, it can be a very cleansing and opening, awakening, enlightening process, or it can be kind of a horrific and life threatening storm that you're kind of dealing with when the waves crash like that. But that's kind of like that outside caution or hazards that might be on the horizon that you can't quite see. But kind of cushioning that blow from the crashing waves or the spiraling waves is this vine kind of peeking up, and that speaks to the growth. It speaks to the new life, kind of those seeds of intent being put out, and the hope is that they will grow and kind of become the manifestation we hope that they will be, and that will kind of protect or at least give us some guidance through the obstacles that may be. This piece is actually a little bit more of a literal icon, which is kind of supposed to be that jester's hat or the fool's hat. So I wanted to add that to be a bit to connect to the playfulness of the card, to connect to the fun, the excitement, because whenever you go on a trip or a vacation or you start a journey, even if it's one where you know, man, I am going to struggle, this is going to be a thing, you still have a bit of excitement in the pit of your stomach because it's something new. It's going to bring about change, perhaps. And although that's really hard to deal with, it can be very rewarding. So you kind of are excited about that. And it can be a more playful experience if the path you take brings you there. So I wanted to include that. I also think it's important, even when we are going through paths of transformation that can sometimes be a bit of painful, a bit of trauma. Just everyone has those times when we have to take those journeys that aren't, the best. They aren't all sunshine and roses. And I think it's important to still have that inner child there, because you need that comfort. You need a bit of wonder to guide you through the darkness sometimes. And so I really wanted to add a bit of fun, or realization that fun should be there. Oddly enough, when I finished drawing it, I'm like, yeah, I like that. It kind of looks like a jester's hat. I'm good with that. And then I looked at it, I'm like, it actually kind of looks like spikities that are kind of warning against the waves. Like, it could be another obstacle that's not there. So I like that. I like that dualistic perspective of it as well. It could be kind of the fun, playful energy, or it could be another hazard to kind of make your way through. And then for me, I sat there and I really thought, okay, so I've got some traditional symbols. I put in some symbols that I really connected to. But when all is said and done, the overall energy of the Fool is just, I can't put it into words. And I think that's why I kind of stumble over things. And it's now like a 15-minute video describing a sigil. But the Fool for me is like, it's that energy you get on not a hot summer day, but like the sun is out, but the wind is kind of cool and brisk, like a perfect spring or autumn day with the sun out. Well, not perfect subjective, but just bear with me. The sun is out and it's really warm, but the air is kind of crisp and cool, so you've got this wonderful, perfect balance going on. And then the wind just hits you like super, like a nice strong wind hits you, and you kind of put your arms out because you feel like you could get taken away on this wind. And it's this cleansing moment, just all your troubles and cares and worries just fly away. That breeze that just hits you and takes every single thing that bogs you down and weighs you down and makes you worry constantly and stresses you out. Suddenly, that one gust of wind takes it. That wind is the Fool. It's that energy that relieves that stress and relieves that worry, even if it's only for a millisecond, even if it's only for a breath. You have that sigh to kind of relieve everything. And then you take a deep breath in and you continue on with your day. But with that energy in mind, I added the radiating points. At first, I kind of had them as straight lines, and then I looked, I'm like, that's a little too rigid. I like the little swirly, whirly gigs of sorts. Very technical terms I'm using. Because it shows that that radiating energy going out, flowing out. But it is a little haphazard. It is a little chaotic. I think a lot of times I struggle with chaos. Yet I need it. I'm very much a planner, thus the blueprints. I like planning things out. I like knowing what's going on. If there is a trip coming up, I want to know as much as I can about it, even if it's a year away, because I will be researching everything I possibly can about that area. With that said, I also thrive in chaos. That same trip that I'll do all that research on, once I'm there, it will be whatever hits me. I've got all this past research I can fall back on. So if I get lost, or if I get bored, or if something happens where whomever I'm traveling with is like, I don't know what to do, I have this wealth of knowledge I can fall back on and say, well, we could go here, we could go here, we could go here. What do you feel like doing? Or if I'm out on my own, okay, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. But if I'm okay just being where I'm at and how I am and just walking around till I get lost and find my way back home, that works too. And that's something that I know I miss a lot in my day-to-day life. I think the chaos either overtakes me and I feel like I'm not in control at all, or I feel like everything's planned out to the minute and I have no room for spontaneity or surprises. So when I was creating this sigil, or this sigil, I really wanted something that was a bit chaotic and a bit airy and breezy, aside from the elemental symbol of air. And so that's what those radiating points was a bit of craziness that will radiate from this symbol. But again, with the lotus, I think it does continue to ground you and bring you back to what the focus is, which is the journey. So that is the sigil that I came up with on April Fool's Day. And I thought I would share it with you and just kind of go over in detail what each of the little symbols mean to me and why I included it. I hope you have a great night, and I hope April is a month of connection but surprises. Blessed be.